healing brush and stuff like that when I do my retouching.
Got you.
But you can really, there's a bunch of roads that lead to Rome, as Alex Liquid Verb says. There's so many different ways to do it to get the similar results. But so anyway, I want this to be full screen. It's not. I don't know if I'm doing something wrong, but
it's large. It's good.
okay, cool.
Yeah.
So basically, first thing I usually do is change the make sure that there's no lens distortion. So I'll enable lens corrections and remove the chromatic aberration. Those are just things that will, if you'd like that vignetting, we can add that in post, but I wouldn't leave that on because it'll have a distorted shot. It'll be a distorted version based on the lens itself, as opposed to what the sensor has and what the sensor can create. You know what I mean? That's like actually like the real image. But first thing I do is always just change those optics. And then I go to my lighting, and this is for all of my photos. I like to just kind of play around with it. So you got good dynamic range here. So I would always boost the shadows just to get more detail. So boosting the shadows and lowering the highlights brings detail back into the shot. So I'm just gonna play around with these until I find something that I like. Maybe bring a little bit more exposure into the shot. Now, one thing that I've been learning is that color variability is what gives photos an aesthetic, like basically a more appealing aesthetic. So one way to make sure that you're getting the most out of your raw image is to boost the saturation to 100 and then use the white balance to find out where your best color variability is and what's a good starting point for your skin tones for like the model itself. So like the skin tones here, she's got some reds, she got some yellows, and even like some magenta tones. So I basically want to stay in this kind of threshold. So it's going to be a little bit cooler. And then when we bring the saturation down, you'll see that it's a little bit more, I guess, like cooler than the original photo. So let's see the before and after here. I'm trying to think why this is moving so slow. So yeah, I'm just gonna cool the image down because that's where I like her skin tones to be, and that's where we're gonna get some magentas, we're gonna get some yellows, and just like some browns, and that's just gonna make her skin look more natural, and it's gonna just like make the image overall look more aesthetically appealing. And then like again, I'm just gonna play around with the exposure. Hold on 1 second to brighten my screen.
Okay.
So here. Okay, cool. So play around with the exposure. So I like that this is bright. Just gonna lower the highlights just a tiny bit. So cool. I like this lighting.
Thank you.
Always good. Yeah, this is like a really good shot, by the way. And I do want to bring the whites down a little bit just to get a little bit. You see that the lighting in the background, how it's kind of blowing the cereal boxes. I'm just gonna bring it down a little bit so it's not competing. What the brightest parts of your shot are where the people's eyes are gonna be drawn to. You know what I mean? So anything brighter than the model, the eyes are going to be diverted there first. So boom, I like this lighting. I'm happy with that. What I'd like to do now is just make sure that my coloring is straightforward as far as like white balance and like not color grading, but just like the balance thing. So like I said, I changed the white balance a bit. I'm gonna play around with this green balance, just to maybe get a little bit some of those magenta tones out. I don't want it to be like a magenta hue, but I want it to look as natural as I can before we start making it different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All right. So hold on 1 second. Okay. So boom. It's just moving a little slow on my side. So I don't know what number it's on yours.
Gotcha.
I'm just playing with it. All right. So cool. All right. I kind of like that the most. Okay, cool. I'm gonna leave it there, and I might even boost the vibrance just a tiny bit. I don't know if you know the difference between vibrance and saturation, but the vibrance is like the lower tones that are being like the lower hues that are in the shot, and the saturations are the more pronounced hues. So if you boost the vibrance, it won't like overpower the shot, but you'll basically bring back some of those skin tones and other tones that aren't as prevalent in the shot. Cool. So we're done with that. Not gonna worry about any of this stuff right now. So the first thing I would do, as far as like actually creating a moody edit, is play around with the S curves and the curve system. So I don't know if you're familiar with the point curve here.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So I always start with the RGB curve where they're all connected, and I usually like to. Oh, sorry.
You're fine. Sorry.
Oh, you're good. So I always like to come in the shot and boost the skin tones just so the model pops out of the photo a little bit more. You know what I mean?
Right, right. The
And
midtones?
yeah, the midtones. So, but the usually the midtones and the skin tones are in the same like area, like
Mm.
on the bar.
Yeah.
So if you boost the midtones, usually the model automatically starts to pop. You know what I mean?
Got
Uh,
you.
so boom, it's gonna boost her. And then I also like to crush the blacks every just like ever so slightly. But with shots like these, since there's so little black, you basically what I'll end up doing is probably contrasting the rest of the shot with the shadows, so it doesn't matter how much black are in the shadows. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like right now, I'm gonna keep the texture and our hair visible, and I'm just gonna make sure that we basically have as much dynamic range to play with when we start adding hues to the shadows. So boom, I'm happy with this. Let me see the before and after. Boom, boom. It's already a little bit more dynamic. I might even push the black stuff a tiny more. Okay. So boom. So she's popping out of the image. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna switch to just the red curve. And I'm going to first, instead of making just the S curve, I'm just gonna make one curve point and see what we can get. But I do notice that there's a lot of reds in the photo itself. So I kind of want to just keep the reds in her skin tone, and like the cart, and maybe let's see here. So there's a lot of red, a lot of white. We can make the whites a little bit more teal. We can make her face and the reds like kind of like a monochromatic pattern. I mean, a palette, and then we can add some darker blue or teal tones to the shadows. So we basically will create a red and teal palette, and we're gonna add blue to the highlights and to the shadows, and just do a lot of red in the midtones. Okay.
Okay.
So first, I'm just gonna play around with these settings and see what I start to like. So I like when there's a little bit of cyan green to the shadows. That's something that I've been doing a lot lately, but just like ever so subtly.
Mm.
So I'm sorry, my computer's going super slow. I thought I had a cool computer till today.
It's good. It's good.
Super duper sad. Okay, cool. So bring that down, get a little bit of green in the shadows, and I'm gonna just try to boost the reds a little bit in the midtones. Okay, it's too much. And in fact, with this photo, I think that, yeah, I just want to make sure that her skin tone looks as normal as possible. We don't really need to mess with the reds. So then I'm going to switch to the greens, see what we can get here. So it's going to be 2 green there. And I actually don't mind a little bit of magenta in the shadows. I've been doing that a lot lately too.
Okay.
Like just like balancing magenta and cyan is important, but it kind of gives the photo like a rosy feel.
Mm.
And I'm just gonna try to play around with some S curves here in the greens to see what we can come up with. So I do want to put some kind of teal cyans in the highlight. So I'm just gonna boost the greens a little bit, and when we get to the blue channel, we're gonna add a little bit of blue there as well. But right now, I'm just looking for something that's kind of moody, but also semi-realistic. We don't want her to look like sick. If you add too much green, she's gonna look kind of sick. Add too much pink, it's just not gonna look real.
Mm.
Or magenta rather. And I'm gonna switch over to blue. I'm gonna try a similar thing with the points. Definitely don't want to get any yellows in the highlights. So we're gonna keep the highlights cool, the shadows cool, and the midtones warm.
Highlights cool. Shadows cool. Midturns cool.
Yeah, just for this because like the most prevalent colors are the warm tones in the shot. You know what I mean? We got the magenta, we got the red, and we got her.
Mm.
The other colors, the black and blue, the black and white, we have to kind of shift those to blue so we can have some more contrast. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's just, so we're just gonna add a little bit of blue to the shadows, a little bit of blue to the highlights, and green as well.
Okay.
I'm just gonna. Oops, sorry, I'm doing this wrong. Now, this might not be amazing based on what we're doing, but once you learn how to use these tools, you'll basically be able to create like very cinematic photos. You know what I mean? Like
Gotcha.
These are all like very important tools to learn. But I really think that you should learn Photoshop. Like I think that would be super dope.
Gotcha.
It'd be
It's
super dope.
the reason that
Yeah.
I don't, the reason that I hesitate is because I like to go for that natural look. I don't like to make them look like the sexualized type models that you usually see on
You
Instagram.
don't have to do all that. It's not about like if you go in Photoshop, it's not going to automatically look like anything. You know what I mean? You have complete control over how natural it is. You can. It's like literally it's Lightroom extreme, like how you can tweak everything in Lightroom. You can do this in Photoshop, and then so much more. And so, I mean, literally, I feel like even the most realistic photographers use Photoshop too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't have to. It's not gonna turn into a Barbie doll. I know what you're talking about too, but I think that you can find that balance. You know what I mean?
Right.
I just think Photoshop is really good because you can add like layers and like say for example, we can add some teal to these like literally paint in teal or like blend teal into the layers, and it'll be more precise than us trying to do it with the curve tool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But again, it's really up to your preference. Like you can try anything. There's so many different like Portrait Pro, Capture One, all these different programs. There's so many ways to get a similar aesthetic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm done ranting. I was just gonna say that I don't want you talking really trash about Photoshop because I love it to death. All right, so let's see. I was gonna check these point curves and see if this is even looking cooler. So I actually like that so far. So I'm gonna play around with that a little bit later. Now I'm gonna come down to the color mixer. So the first thing I'm gonna do is since we are going, so color. I just want to see what this does.
Okay.
HSL is what I'm used to. Okay, so color, I can basically do selective color. That's awesome. All right, cool. So again, I think that one thing that's important is creating a color palette. So the fact that we've got some cooler tones and highlights, warmer midtones, I want to kind of shift all of the colors to a more cohesive palette within those colors. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So with the reds, let's see. What would I would probably shift the hues first and then go back and then go to color and tweak it. Let me just try that first.
Okay.
So red here. I like to do a little bit dramatic to see what the most color I can get out of it. Now, have you ever used like adjustment brushes and stuff like that?
I have. Luminar 3, which is the one that I used to use, the program that I used to use, is $69, and it lets you do adjustment brushes. So Lightroom was kind of a downgrade, except it had more cloud features to it. So yeah, I have.
Okay, gotcha. So I thought you could do adjustment brushes in Lightroom though.
You kind of, but it's really limited, which is why I should downgrade, except it had more
I mean, honestly, you can do so much in just camera raw filter, and that'll be a great segue into Photoshop for you. Like it's just like Lightroom. It's actually, I would say Lightroom looks better, but it's camera raw filter is really intuitive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway, so long story short, I'm just gonna play around with this. So as I can see here, these reds are being affected. Right now, I'm thinking a little bit of magenta will make this really pop. So I'm going to try this, and then I'm going to try to make these purples a little bit more blue. And I'm going to try to make these blues a little bit more teal. And just see what happens. Take these aquas. I'm basically going to try to bring as many colors into like a 3-color palette as possible without messing up the integrity of the shot. You know what I mean?
Got you. Yeah.
So not a lot of green here, but I don't want too much green in the shot. So I might just make the green, I might just go with the orange, red, teal aesthetic.
Here's the thing that I noticed. Would you recommend desaturating colors completely?
So I definitely desaturate colors, but I get the colors where I want them to be first, and then I bring them up and down. You know what I mean? Like
Gotcha.
I think if you get the hues straight and then you do luminance and saturation after, you'll have a better idea of what. Because like I don't know, I don't know how to explain it, but that's just what I do. It might not be right and I might be wrong, but I'm just telling you that's my experience. You know what I mean?
Got you. Yeah.
I'm just gonna like this. Come on, computer. I'm so sorry. I don't even know what's happening right now.
Oh, the Wacom thing?
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck that's about.
Yeah.
I just want to press. I pressed OK.
Huh. You're using a drawing tablet right now?
No, I'm not. It's just sitting next to me. That's what I'm saying. That's just really annoying.
That's strange.
It's just sitting next to me. It's just since I'm zooming and my computer's moving super slow.
Got you.
I'm running a bunch of crap. I don't even know what I downloaded lately. Oh, it's a freaking screen recording. I got like just like random stuff for work on my computer and just making it slow for stuff that I really want to do.
Got you.
Let's see here. So what I might do,
yes,
is I might open up the other Lightroom and just do the same thing because this is moving super slow, and I think it might be a catalog thing.
Okay.
I'm gonna try that again. I just want to try that instead. Hold on. I don't know why this is being so annoying today, and I'm just super sad that it's embarrassing like this in front of you.
It's okay. Don't worry.
Sad.
It's all good.
I don't even know what it's telling me to do. It's just like I've never even seen that message before. Okay, anyway. The reason why I wanted to switch is because I don't know if I can do something that's really pertinent in the program to show you something that's really like kind of cool.
If you're more comfortable in Photoshop, feel free to switch.
Let's go.
Okay.
All right, get out of here. Let's get out of here. I'm gonna get out of here. Camera raw filter though. We're not gonna get into Photoshop layers or anything because it's very daunting.
Okay.
Camera raw filter is essentially what is your Photoshop raw processor. So it's like your Lightroom for Photoshop or your Capture One, whatever.
Got you.
The key is to do as much of your editing while the photo's still raw, because once you open it up, quote unquote, it becomes it's no longer a raw photo. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So cool. So anyway, what I'm about to show you in camera raw filter now is something that you can do in the Lightroom classic version. Okay.
Okay.
Get my water. Hold on.
All right.
All right, cool. So let's start over again. So boom. First things first. Oh, that's already moving faster. Let's go.
Nice.
Boom. So enable profile corrections and remove chromatic aberration. We're gonna boost these shadows to bring some detail back in our hair. And we're going to remove some of these highlights just to get some of the detail back in the background of the shot. Now, what I like to do is create a little bit of brightness around the model. So what I'll do before we even start grading is I'll go make an adjustment brush. So we go to the adjustment brush and we're gonna reset the settings, and I'm gonna select this mask tool so I can see what I'm actually doing. And I'm just gonna paint a little mask. I'm gonna make the mask opacity a little bit heavier if possible.
Okay.
There we go. So boom, basically what I'm doing is I'm creating a mask where I'm going to make some adjustments that are only going to affect this area that's been masked. So I know you said you're familiar with masks.
Yes.
This is just one way to create separation. So one thing that is popular and even really just important in photography is creating subject separation. And there's three ways to do it. You can do it with luminosity, you can do it with color, or you can do it with, I think, depth of field. Yeah, I think those are the three. So basically what I'm saying is I want to make the model pop out of the photo, and I want to basically minimize the attention that the background is drawing. So once I create the mask, which is only on the background, I'm just going to play around with the settings. So I can bring the highlights down, boom, boom. And I kind of like a little bit of a highlight because it's kind of almost like a spotlight on her hair, and it's also showing the separation between her hair and the background. But what I will do is maybe desaturate the background ever so slightly, and that will bring her out a little bit as well, and maybe even cool the background down because we're going to be doing some of that teal and red aesthetic. Remember?
Yeah.
So see what I'm doing? Those whites are becoming less yellow, and the blacks are becoming a little bit cooler as well.
Yes.
So that's going to be really important for our subject separation. Now, one thing that you can also do is kind of lower the contrast a bit in the background to lose some of the attention. To divert some of the attention. And I might even dehaze it just a bit to kind of create a little bit more contrast. Like, I don't want the shot to be, how do I explain? I don't want the background to be contrasted, but I want it to be darker and contrasting with the model. You know what I mean? So boom, I'm happy with those adjustments. I'm going to make another adjustment brush, and this is going to allow me just to brighten up the model's face a little bit. So I should have reset the settings. I'm sorry. I'm going to make settings here, and then I'm just going to just bring the shadows up a little bit on her face, just so it kind of pops out. So now we've got just like 2 really quick adjustment layers, and I'll show you the before and after. Wait, is that it? Okay, I don't know if that's showing the before and after. I thought it was. So boom. You can see the before and after. We've got more detail. We've got more coolness in the background, and her face is popping out a little bit more, right? Yeah. So I'm going to go back to the settings. I'm going to get out of this before and after. And so now I'm going to go back to what I was talking about, color variability and the boost of saturation. And I'm just going to find a nice skin tone for her that I think is good. Let's see here.
And this is for the overall photo, right?
Pardon me?
This is for the overall photo?
Yeah, this is no longer adjustment brushes, the whole thing. Not really, you don't need to do too much of the adjustment brushes right now. It's just to kind of get started. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now I just wanted to show you. Oh, it's showing me a half of a before, half of an after. I'm sorry. I was like, why is it?
Gotcha.
Boom. So it's the saturation's at 100. I want to find that skin tone that gives me a little bit of magenta in the cheeks, and a little bit of yellow in the eyebrows, and stuff like that. You know what I mean? That gives us as much of her skin variability as possible. So boom, it's a little bit cooler. The background's super duper cool. I'm going to boost the vibrance a bit and bring some of those lower tones in. And then that's cool. I like that. I might even dehaze it a bit, get a little bit more contrast there. And I'm sorry, my head is tilted, but I always tilt my head when I edit like a dog. I'm sorry. And then I'm just gonna get this little bit. Okay, cool. So I'm happy with that. It's a little too cool for me from the naked eye, so I'm just gonna warm it up a tiny bit. Just throwing a little caution to the wind as far as variability, but I do want her to look natural, and I want to look like it was cold. So I'm happy with that. Before, after. So I'm gonna turn it down a little bit. Maybe instead of so much pink, I'm gonna bring some green in there, and I think that balances out pretty nicely. Okay, cool. So not gonna mess with the contrast just yet. Actually, I might even bring it up. I'm not bringing it down. And so I'm gonna lower the contrast just because her hair and her shirt are the same color. We don't want that I want them to get lost in translation. So I'm just gonna separate those.
Okay.
So now I'm gonna go back to the S curve thing again. So boom, RGB curve. First thing, make an S, and pop the midtones. Boom, boom, boom. I'm gonna pop the highlights a little bit, and I'm just gonna bring the blacks into a nice little spot that's moving. So I'm gonna move them ever so slightly, and I'm gonna crush them so it's not black. And then I'm going to just kind of play around with the lower tones. So essentially I want to have it so we can still get the texture in her hair, but I don't want it to be all the way black, and I don't want it to be too light that it doesn't look like it's supposed to look like. Like I don't want it to look like, I don't know how to like film. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna bring it up ever so slightly for now. Cool. And I'm gonna switch to the reds. Boom, boom, boom.
So
And go.
for this part, are you hovering over the photo? I'm sorry, I'm looking back and forth between my photo and that
You're
edit.
good. You're good.
So are you hovering over her and then selecting it that way, or are you just going straight off the chart?
I'm going straight off of the chart. I don't usually hover in this stage because I'm just really kind of playing around to see what I like.
Got you.
Once you realize what colors you want, you can go in and pinpoint and do like the selecting. But what I'm doing now is just kind of like a more broad version of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if you eyeball it, you can pretty much get similar results. I've been eyeballing it for so long that once I learned about using the little selecting tool, I was like, it's too late for me.
Got you.
Leave me. All right, so cool. I've got this is a little bit more controlled than Lightroom for me. I don't know why Lightroom moves so slowly, but I feel much better now. But anyway, you can see what I'm doing here. I'm basically cooling off the highlights and the lowlights, but I'm bringing a little bit of warmth into the midtones. And that's just going to create some contrast, and it's going to make the model pop. It's going to make the background pop for the model. I mean, the model pop from the background. You're just going to get as much separation as possible.
Okay.
I'm also going to switch to the green. I'm going to make another S curve. And I'm just going to play around with this until I like some stuff. So maybe a little bit of green in her skin. I don't want her to look too pink, but I also don't want her to look too green. All right, get a little bit of green here in the highlight. So I'm not making huge adjustments. I'm just doing little tweaks, but they do go a long way, and they make a big difference. One thing that I do like about Photoshop is when I make tweaks like this, I can set the layer style to be different. Like it won't just be a normal blend. It can be like soft light or multiply or luminosity, and I have even more control over this. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you can get similar results in multiple ways. I just don't know the best way to do it in Lightroom, but I know how to do it with Photoshop. So like I said, you can do everything in Lightroom and kill it and never have to open up Photoshop in your life. But essentially, it's all one big way to get movie ports.
Right. They all basically do the same thing.
Yeah, for sure. So boom. I'm just trying to find a nice little tone that's not too dramatic. All right, cool. So I'm happy with that. I'm happy with those tones. And again, we're gonna just leave these here for now, and we're gonna go play around with the HSL, and then we're gonna come back and tweak those. Okay.
Okay.
So first, we're gonna play with the reds. So we've got some reds in her skin tone. So I'm not gonna mess with the reds in her skin. I'm gonna play with the orange here. Her skin is basically all orange. So we might have to use some some selective brushes to tweak that a little bit. Since we do have some red in her skin and it's not overpowered, I'm just gonna bring it into the magentas because that's the color palette that I want to go with. Magenta, teal. So I'm gonna leave the oranges alone. Maybe even add a little bit of magenta to orange just to kind of be adhesive. For this yellow, you can see that the yellows are only affecting some of these boxes. Now with the blue and the pink or the magenta, I'm trying to think would be the best trad palette. A yellow would be cool.
All right.
I think orange would be good. Let's try to make it orange first. Take all the greens and make them yellow. Make all the yellows, make them orange. Take all the aquas and make them blue. The blues and make them tealer. The purples make them bluer. And see what we come up with after.
That looks like a BSZ photo.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's exactly the style. Like you get what I'm saying. So now that we have these very dramatic versions of that, we can tone it down.
Right.
And come up with something that's a little bit less saturated. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Since we want to pop her, I'm gonna basically remove saturation from everything that's not affiliated with her. She's orange, not really, but as far as Photoshop is concerned. Right. So I'm gonna make sure that I'm not desaturating the oranges too much. I'm just gonna make sure that she looks normal and natural. She's got some reds in her as well, so I'm not gonna desaturate those too much. Yellows are basically orange, so we can just bring that in. The aquas are pretty much very subtle, so we're not going to mess with those. Purples are very saturated, so I don't mind this color variability with the purple, but I'm just going to bring it down slightly because I want that I don't want it to compete with the reds in the photo. So you can see that. Say for example, we get rid of all the purple. That's a cool aesthetic, but I'm also gonna leave it at a lower saturation for now.
Gotcha.
So the magentas, similar story. So it's not. I don't want to bring too much attention to them. I'm just gonna bring them down ever so slightly, and then I'm gonna play around with the luminance of all of those colors just to get a balance that I like.
All
So
right.
bring it for skin. Yellows are a nice little highlight on the unicorn. I like it. Bring the greens down a bit. Bring the blues down a bit. All right, orange, the purples, we keep them bright. The magentas, I'm gonna keep them around the same tone as the red, so it's all one kind of luminosity. All right, cool. So I'm happy with that. I'm gonna look at the before and after. Boom, 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 boom. Not too much different, but it still looks somewhat realistic.
Right.
Then I'm going to now. Well, first thing I want to do is I'm gonna go to the calibration screen.
Could I look at your hues real quick?
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay. Yellows and then greens go down, and then aquas go all the way up. And
you see what I was trying to do though?
Yeah. Push all the colors together.
Yeah, so it's like just really cohesive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now there's like 3 colors in the whole image, like orange, teal, orange, and red. You know what I mean?
Perfect. Yeah.
That's really cool. And then so now when we go to our split toning, we can even add those colors. So we're gonna take some teal, and we're gonna add it to the highlights, and we're gonna take some of that red and add it to the shadows.
All
So
right.
I'm gonna basically just kind of slide across until we find a place that we like. And if we don't find anything we like, we can switch the highlights to a red and the shadows to a blue. So it's just like, actually like this a little bit better. So a little bit of blue in the shadows looks really moody, and then a little bit of red in the highlights. Actually, let me see if I can find a nice color balance here. If not, I'm gonna switch back. This is kind of like a guessing game at this point.
Right.
The toning is just like, I hate this or I love it.
Did you do a color calibration yet?
I skipped it because I wanted to show you that basically the colors that we created, that's what we're gonna use for the split toning. But I do want to do the calibration, so we can skip this for now and go to calibration. So calibration is super duper important. This is like super clutch. I basically end all of my photos with some sort of color calibration step. So either it's color balance, or if it's I put it in a raw file and put it in camera raw filter and use the calibration tab. But since we've got a lot of creative control here, I'm just gonna play around with this. So I'm gonna desaturate this to get a little bit of that mood, but I'm gonna bring it so the colors are less cartoony, but a little bit more realistic. I'm gonna bring it down a little bit. For the blues, I'm gonna bring it into the fun zone a little bit. So maybe a little bit of teal. All right, I don't mind that. And then I'm gonna try the hues. The reds, maybe make them look more magenta. And try saturation here. So basically, I don't know if you can tell, but it's basically all about playing around with the options.
Yeah.
You like it. But these are the tools that you should use. And like I said, you can use camera calibration in CC. In Lightroom Classic. So now I'm gonna try to add some split tones. I think that the teal highlights might be the jam, and warmer shadows might be pretty smooth. So I'm actually gonna get some like yellows, like an orange yellow in the shadows, and see what that looks like. Boom. And I'm gonna add some saturation in the highlights, and then I'm gonna find a good balance between them that I really am comfortable with.
Okay.
I kind of like a little bit cooler. So boom. So now I'm happy with these tones. I'm gonna maybe go back to the hue and saturation and play around with them a little bit. Get a little bit of more red in her skin tone. Maybe like a magenta skin tone. I'm gonna play with the oranges a bit more. Blues, let's see here. A little bit less cyan and more of a teal color. I'm gonna lower the saturation of the highlights here ever so slightly. Cool. Let's see here. I just want to make sure I'm in a good, balanced place. Boom. All right, cool. So now that we've made those adjustments, I'm just going to keep going through what we've done already and just tweaking it, okay?
Okay.
Now for IG, I always pop my clarity, I would say around 7 to 10. And then I'll even come back in here and play around with the RGB. So it's not super amazing to do this way. But again, I would have already opened Photoshop and had 100 layers open by now.
Yeah.
This is just a way to do this that's similar. Let's see here, boom, boom, boom. And then get a little bit more black. Cool. And so I like that. I'm gonna go to my reds and just play around with it a little bit more. Bring it down. So slightly. All right. I don't mind that. I'm just gonna play with the other colors and then come back to red.
Okay.
Boom. There we go. Highlights. There we go. All right, I'm trying to tweak this, and I'm gonna let you ask me any questions.
Okay.
Like that, and then so now I do like to sharpen. One tool in camera filter is the sharpening with the mask option. So you can mask what you actually want to sharpen. So the only thing that's going to be sharpened is stuff that's in white, which is like her face, like you see her eyes, nose, teeth. I'm just going to sharpen it a little bit. And then I'm going to just keep playing around with this stuff, just make sure I'm happy with it.
So for this one, you went for orange, blue, and red. Got you.
So there's a couple ways to do like color, like theory. If you use, there's like palette options. So for example, I want to see if I can even like pinpoint a color here. So let's see here. Oops, that was not what I wanted to do. I want to see if I can maybe like grab a color or. Okay, cool. So you see where my playing glass is?
Yeah.
You see the JB number is 167, 125, 101 on the right side.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So we're going to pretend like we're going to remember that. How to find a color palette. There's hundreds of these.
I think that one uses Oh no, never mind. Okay.
Oh, I mean, I don't know. I was just gonna just keep playing around with it. I don't know.
Got you.
I don't know which one I should be using.
Because there's some sort of difference between RYB and RGB.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Let's see. What can I use? So we'll just use it for example. Like, I'm just gonna bring an orange. Like, let's see here. Let's find like an orange that kind of matches their skin tone. Okay. Somewhere, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we're gonna try different color palettes to see if there are any that would fit the aesthetic. So this is complementary. Since you already had some whites and blues, I figured we can try something that's a little bit more contrasting to that. This is triadic, which we probably could have done like a green aesthetic and orange and blue. We can always do that too, but we had that red in there, and I didn't want to like neglect it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I don't know if there is a perfect color palette for all of these things, but ultimately you can kind of create what you want. Like we can go based on the red that we have, and kind of see that the red, the teal, and the orange is kind of an aesthetic itself. You know what I mean?
Right.
So we can make those yellows more green, but the red, blue, and teal. I mean, sorry, the red. Dang, we could have made it green. So I guess if her skin tone was a little bit, we could add some green to her skin tone, which I think we did in the S curve.
Yeah.
And make it a nice little contrast thing. So you see, like we just kind of winged it, and it still kind of came out decent. Like that's somewhat of a pattern, you know, of a palette.
Right.
But you can kind of create what you want based on what you want to do. So you're not really limited by the colors in the photo itself. It's really what you like, what you have in your mind, or what you want to do.
Gotcha.
But this is just the kind of like the starting point for playing around with these parameters, because every program is going to have the same options. Like you can have HSL, you can have luminosity, and have these same options. Is just what interface you're using, what you're comfortable with. But for me, I would have left this like this and just retouched. Probably would have added another S curve to it. So I might like open this, and I was explaining like most of the stuff that we just did in camera raw filter, we can do the layers, right? So, but it's not. I think you obviously know you're a smart guy, but I just like to. I want you to know that you're not far off from being good at Photoshop. You know what I mean?
Got you.
But yeah. So long story short, you can just make different adjustments, and most of the time I add another S curve to my photos just to kind of give it that like digital art look.
Right.
Just kind of smoothing out the S curve that I already created, and just kind of creates like a very like soft but still contrasting image. So curves are super important. And then, like I said, sharpening, all of those things. So let me see here. I'm just gonna.
You said that you couldn't go back in and change the camera raw after you finish it, right? But
Well, you edit it. If it's a smart object, you can go back and change the settings.
yeah.
But it just, once you open it up as a no longer smart object, like say for example, if I start adding stuff to it, I can't get that raw data back. You know what I mean? So like, it would basically be, I can leave it as a smart object forever, but once I start doing stuff, I'm eventually going to compress this whole thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to ask about converting it to a smart object.
Yeah, it's important. It's super duper important. So I'm going to show you camera raw details. So let's just do a quick little before and after. So boom, boom. It's not super different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just, you can see a little bit more detail. And if you did some skin retouching, this would be really, really nice. Maybe some local dodging burning.
Yeah.
So I'm going to open up the other one and play with that one too, okay?
All right. The reason is, so the palette part, the scheme, the color scheme part, I think that's what I meant when I keep saying that my colors look cheap. Like with stuff like this, I don't know what to do because she's a black girl, but then the background is super overexposed. It's just difficult to play with. So if you go to look at my Instagram, then the colors just look wonky. They look off. They look amateur, at least to me. And I'm just like, dang, how do I fix this?
So I hope did some of this help at all though? What we just talked about?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, cool. So I think that it really, I don't want you to feel like you're limited by the color palettes, because you can make it up as long as you like the aesthetic. I don't want you feeling like you can't make it your own. But what I would say is that using adjustment brushes will help with that, because you can kind of, or just brushes and layers are basically synonymous. You can essentially, say for example, I want to mask. It's the same exact thing as camera raw filter in Photoshop. I'm going to create a brush. I'm going to create a mask in the background. Oh wait, I'm sorry. So just like a really quick vignetting, and like automatically she's popping out. And this is the same thing I did in camera raw. You can just keep making adjustment layers and doing that kind of stuff, and just making her pop, and just make as many layers as you want to. And you can do that in Lightroom as well, and just keep making adjustments until you kind of like there's some photographers on IG that use Lightroom only, and they make way better stuff. You know what I mean? So like, I don't want you to feel limited by that. It's really just like, once you start getting comfortable with the tools, you can do it in any program, your phone, iPad, everything. Gotcha. So, but again, it's totally up to you. But as far as the colors, like there's a few different websites you can use. I use the built-in Adobe color themes. It's in Photoshop already. So what that allows me to do is just like select a point. Like say for example, I want to balance off these reds. I'm going to create a palette based on those reds. So it tells me I should use a little bit of teal. This is triadic, I assume. Yep. So boom, got the teals, got some blues, some magentas, and we can kind of like add that to our skin tone and just come up with a really dope pattern. You know what I mean? Or a palette rather, scheme. So boom, I'm going to go ahead.
I didn't even know that was a feature.
Yeah. So this is super clutch, and there's so many different options. But essentially, you can use a website, you can use anything, and you can once you start playing around with it, you'll remember what schemes work. You know what I mean?
Got you. Yeah.
So for this, obviously, bring those highlights down, bring the details back in the shot. The dynamic range of this shit is amazing, by the way. That's clean.
Thank you.
That's just clean. So let's do this. So boom, bring up some of the highlights. Give her face, her details, great shot again.
Because I was feeling like the Sony cameras usually outdo my camera, the Panasonic camera, in dynamic range.
Sony's are amazing, bro.
Yeah.
You can't compare it. Seriously, like Sony's changed the lives.
Yeah.
I started with Nikon, and my dynamic range of my D750 is good. You can see Ben, he uses D750 as well. Like the dynamic range is amazing. If you shoot raw, you're good no matter what. Sometimes I feel like I'm not shooting the right way to be taking advantage of it.
Right.
But I will say that these mirrorless cameras they're blowing my mind. I'm really just impressed by what's going to happen in the future.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'm just excited for when people. But anyway, let me start over. Actually, do you mind if I grab a water real quick?
Yeah, that's good.
All right, cool. Alrighty. So were you born in Jonesboro area?
Yeah, unfortunately.
It's all good. It's all good.
Yeah, I feel like I would be doing better or would be further progressed if I was born in northern Atlanta. But
I respect. I mean, just come and bring that Jonesboro love to Atlanta. You know.
Yes, sir.
All right, so Pete though.
Yeah.
That was dope.
Thank you.
Already looking at it, thinking what color palette we can go with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So one thing that's really popular right now is the teal and red aesthetic. And what that kind of sometimes entails is making the grass and like kind of like foliage green a little peeler or bluer. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's what I want to start with right now. First thing I'm gonna do. I'm out of shape. Obviously, I'm sorry.
No worries.
I'm gonna obviously start with my lens corrections. I always do that every photo, every time.
Gotcha.
I'm gonna grab my highlights down and bring that sky color back. I'm going to raise my shadows a bit to get some more detail in her shirt, in her face, in her hair. And I'm gonna dehaze it because it was a pretty sunny day. We're just gonna get a little bit more contrast in the sky and in her body. Now, in doing so, I'm also gonna bring the vibrance up a little bit just to kind of bring some of those skin tones in. But I can see that she's got some magenta tones on her skin and in her jeans. So we're gonna probably have to make a decision on whether or not we're gonna go to make it look more blue or make it look more red. Now, before we even do that, I'm gonna start with another adjustment layer, and I'm just gonna bring some of that green to a cooler color, so it's going to be easy to make it look more teal. So I'm going to make a new preset, I'm going to make a new brush. Wait. I was clicking the wrong side of my mouse pad like a crazy person. All right, I'm going to make this mask. Boom. Oops, I'm sorry, I was supposed to do the grass. Okay, so boom. So you've got the greens and yellows in the foreground a bit. So It's gonna make them a bit cooler. Just very, very subtle, just so it's not hard to make it cooler later.
All right.
So boom, bring the temperature down a bit. I'm happy with that. And I'm gonna go back to the regular adjustments. And I'm going to boost the saturation, and I'm gonna find a nice skin tone to play with. That sounded kind of creepy, but you're like,
yeah.
go. I'm just kidding. So cool, we did that, and then I'm actually gonna start the HSL this time just to show you what I was saying. Right. So the greens, this actually could be kind of dope too, with the greens turning to yellows and then the cyans being a little bit tealer. This could be a cool aesthetic, or you can make the greens a little bit more blue. Personally, I would go with this. The blue, the yellow, and the red look dope like that to me. You know what I mean? Right. So this is totally up to your creative discretion. Like, I love blues as greens, but since we've got that really blue sky, the really blue jeans, the red pop, that blue, yellow, red combo will look really dope. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, so I just don't know if I had to convince you or not, but yeah. Gotcha. So what I'm gonna do is actually I'm gonna make these aquas a little bit greener as well, and then I'm gonna take the blues and I'm gonna make them a little bit more cyan, like purple, and I'm just gonna bring that purple straight up out of her. Actually, I'm gonna take the sacrifice. I'm gonna bring it to the red side. What I'm gonna do with the red, you see the red on the bottom.
Yeah.
The fact that it's reflecting off her jeans is gonna be cool, and it's gonna create a nice little effect. And the red, it's gonna make the skin tone on her forehead more prevalent. It's not gonna look like gray almost.
All right.
So with the magentas, I'm gonna do something similar. I'm actually gonna bring it to the reds as well. So with images like this, I like to play with the luminance before I do saturation, just so I can kind of see how much richer I can make the image with the slider. So like, since there's so much blue, I want to bring the blues as dark as I can so they're rich when we start doing the saturation and stuff like that. So I'm playing around. Like, I know this doesn't really sound like a method to the madness, but this is just my experience. Like, I've seen images like these where the sky can be really full, and then it's like kind of whitewashed, you know what I mean? Because they don't bring the limits down enough, or they don't make it as rich as it can be.
Right.
It makes me a little sad. So, boom, and I'm gonna drop this. I'm gonna make the oranges a little bit more. I don't want to make her look lighter. I want the melanin pop. So I'm actually gonna bring it down. And I'm gonna bring the red down a bit so she's a little bit. So this isn't gorgeous. We're gonna have to tweak these yellows and stuff like that later. But I do like this direction. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So now we're in saturation. I'm going to make the yellows more yellow. Bring the green in. It's just gonna kind of make everything kind of a little bit more alive. Bring that orange in for skin. This is like a product shot, so you can kind of be more traditional with the colors. You don't get too wonky, but you can kind of get like a nice, like, vibrant edit out of shots like these, and still make it kind of moody and still branding type shots. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So cool. I'm happy with those base colors. So now I'm going to go to the RGB, and I'm going to start making my adjustments with the curve. So I'm going to start with my RGB S curve. And I'm going to swap to the red. Boom. As to curve that red. I'm just gonna take a little of that red out of her skin tone. Kind of balance it with the greens that are in the photo, since we've got some greens in the foreground and the background. We don't want it to clash too much, but we do want it to be apparent that she's popping out. So let's see here. Let's see what we can do. I actually really like this. So I made another little point, and I made the absolutely no reds in the shadows, but it's just a very slight red progression in the midtones. And then I'm gonna remove all of the reds from the highlights as well, so it's only her skin that's popping. So it's gonna be kind of like a vintage ad type color palette. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it should still be pretty moody. Now, again, I'm gonna add some cyans to the greens, so it should be a little bit more rich. But just bear with me for a second. Hold on.
Alright.
Hmm. The magenta is gonna be a bit of a problem, but we're gonna work around it. Just
Gotcha.
let me go to the HF. Let me go to the calibration. You should be able to fix it. You don't need magenta unless you need a photo, so you can just ask it to use. I'm bringing the blues down and shadows. I'm sorry, bringing more blue. Um, I'm sorry, a little bit less blue into the shadows. For some reason, it looks really sunny, and I want to have some of that yellow in the shadows, so it's kind of like a golden look to it.
Right.
But also kind of get some of that blue out of her because that's what's causing some of that magenta. And so we can just keep the blues and the highlights just for contrast. And then I'm going to, so let me see the before and after this. So it's not amazing, but it's a little bit more traditional. And it's got a kind of a cool, funky look. Now, once we get a calibration, we can make it more amazing. So what I'll do is see what this looks like, see what this looks like. So obviously, a little bit of teal will make it pop with the summer vibes. Maybe add a little bit of saturation to it. Let's see here. A little bit of cyans and the greens will give a little bit of a summer vibe as well. So I'm going to bring those over and just play with the saturation a bit. I might even bring it down. One thing I'm going to have to do is just go find a way to make her skin tone closer to the natural skin tone as possible.
Mm.
I do like the colors in the actual shot itself. So I'm probably going to lower the luminance of the shot overall. I'm going to just come up with a, let's see here. Damn.
What's up?
Okay, super slow.
Oh, got you.
Sorry.
No worries. I'm trying to catch up, actually.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm actually just like moving really quickly. I think that you understand that it's really just playing around with it till you get it right. And
Yeah.
it's really no wrong or right way to do it. You know what I mean? It's just whether or not you're comfortable with tools and if you're willing to just go back and tweak it to you. I've given up on photos. I was like, dang, I just don't like this. I just never posted it. And it's like, that's okay. You have to, I don't know, like, I don't want you rushing it to post or like rushing that content because I think you'd be happier if you just like find, like, I don't know, like, you just got to be happy with your work before you expect other people to be happy with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's something I worried about. I was like, damn, I don't like this, but I know IG will like it, and that's not a good way to, you know?
Yeah.
Um, but anyway, I'm just gonna keep playing around with this. So again, I'm using the split tones, and I'm kind of using some of the colors that are already in the shot. And let's see here if I can find some. I'm gonna fix her skin tone so she looks a little bit. There we go. It's not bad.
Mm-hmm.
It was a little bit too teal. I'm gonna make it a little more natural. And then these little yellow. See, these are all really just about tweaking it. Can't really stress on enough. Like tweaking is where I tweak photos probably 20 times before I post it.
Right.
I'm like, I'm tweak it for 6 more hours. No worries.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm just gonna go over and show you I want to show you the before and after. I do want to. For me, it's hard for me to edit stuff like this because I don't usually shoot daytime shots like this. So I'm like, is this what people like? Is this what looks good? I
You're
don't. Say it again.
like, were you saying that, or are you asking that?
No, I'm saying like this kind of shot is hard for me to know what the client's gonna want. You know what I mean?
Got you. Yeah.
Like I usually don't shoot during this bright of daytime. Now that I have a little CPL filter, I will. But before, I would be scared to shoot at that time with this because I wouldn't know how to expose the shot really well. You know what I mean?
I actually brought a diffuser just so I could do this kind of. Yeah.
Beautiful. I got the same. I got one too.
Yes, sir.
I still respect your hustle, man. So,
Thank you.
what is this? This a 25 millimeter?
Yeah, yeah.
Cool. I just got a 35 a couple days ago.
Nice.
I haven't shot with the yet. I shot some photos of my dog, but not any models yet.
I try to do 50 millimeter. It's just too close for me.
That's my jam. You know, all my shots are 50 on my page except like one.
Yeah.
Actually, two on my page are 85, and the other ones are 50.
Got you.
But no 35 on there yet. All right, so yeah, this I would kind of really just call this a day. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
this is quality. I would just do the retouching, and again, what I do is I boost the clarity because it kind of adds that sharpness. I don't know if you can see the difference between that.
Okay.
Boom, boom. You see that?
Yeah.
That's like really a lot of the sharpening that I do.
Mm.
And then you can also use sharpening like masking sharpening, and you can kind of get similar results. So if you zoom in, you can see that this is really sharp. This is a good ass shot though.
Thank you.
Worked out really well. So it's very clean, very crisp. And you can put like branding stuff like the logo somewhere or some text, and like it looks like an ad. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think the biggest takeaway from all of this is to use all of the tools that you have. Definitely explore the Photoshop option. I can send you my like Photoshop retouching tutorial.
Mm.
Just because I want you to realize that it's not too daunting. Like if you decide to dive in, I have a little. It's not. It's really just a recording of me doing a one-on-one with someone else that was like kind of new to Photoshop. So I was being very descriptive of the stuff. But since you have a lot of experience with Camera Raw, you'll get it quickly. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
then one more question before you
Yeah.
go.
Go ahead.
Uh, so quarantine, right? A
Mhm.
lot of people are staying inside because of quarantine, but I don't want to end up taking too many pictures of myself. The Chick-fil-A one that I just posted on my page, I don't know if you saw it, but the Chick-fil-A one is one that I'm really proud of, and
Uh,
it's very ad-like, very sponsory.
Let me see my phone. Hold on.
All right,
Here's my phone actually.
cool.
I got it. Okay. So
Like
let me.
that's the kind of style that I like, and I do want to do more like that, specifically with me eating food, because like my brand is like people enjoying things they like to do, and people love to eat. But
Sure. Who shot these?
I did that.
With a tripod?
Yeah.
Damn, how'd you focus like that?
I put the bag on the ground, or I pick a particular spot on the ground that looks like cracked or something, so I have a place to sit and know where I'm sitting, and I just do it. I put the settings there, and yeah.
Hey, that is incredible, dude. I thought you had a friend doing that.
No, I. Thank you.
That is really impressive. So yeah, branding for sure. I think that, dude, the quarantine kit, it gets you a couple masks and wash your hands, stay away from the models. Like I shoot for work, and I'm going to the warehouse tomorrow. There's gonna be a bunch of people, and I got to just get B-roll and do a bunch of shit. Like I think that you're safe now. One thing that I was worried about was when Georgia had a predicted date for where there would be more need for medical supplies than actual supply. You know what I mean? You like basically not enough beds, not enough ventilators, not enough doctors, da da da.
Right.
Now that we've been in the quarantine for so long, I think that they've been ramping up that stuff, so we have more resources. So I'm a little bit less worried about being sick as I am. Like now, I'm like, okay, if I feel like I get sick, I can like go to the doctor, at least somewhere in Georgia. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But a couple of ago, I would have been worried that they wouldn't be hospital beds, but now I'm less worried about it. But I think if you just are being very straightforward with your model, like, hey, let's just stay distant, and you can bring a mask, wash your hands, no touching, like you know what I'm saying? Like you'll be safe. I think personally,
Right.
I'm doing the same thing. I'm at risk. I have like sickle cell. I have anxiety, so I'm like always paranoid that I'm gonna get sick from it. So it's very annoying.
Gotcha.
But I think that you've waited long enough and just be like, hey, like I'm taking it slow, but as long as you're being safe, then I think that you can start working again. You know?
Right. I actually shot this and my friend's graduation pictures and that one with the camp lights in like the same 10 days. But my question was, I have a hard time convincing everybody to come out and shoot with me. So I'm scared of posting too much of me and too much of what I like to do, and then like, what do you think about that?
Um, I think you should just always just post like, hey, I think that how do I explain this? Like, I don't want you worrying about what other people want to see. You know what I mean?
Got
The
you.
people that want to see what you're creating will find your page and they'll flock to it and they'll stick around and they'll enjoy themselves. The people that you like, the people that you're catering to,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not in line with what you believe that what you want, you're not going to want those that support anyway. You know what I mean? Like that's not the kind of support you want. You want people that are going to like your page for what you're creating in your mind and your art. As far as getting people to shoot, I just think you should post like, "Hey, I'm shooting. If anyone wants to shoot," and don't feel bad if people don't want to shoot right now. But there will be models like that are okay with shooting. You know what I mean? I know people that are shooting now, and I think that it's just whether or not like I don't know if you're like in like Facebook groups for like Atlanta photographers or for, models, but you can like post like, "Hey, any models want to shoot?" Do TFP like, or even just search IG. I do a lot of IG like hashtag searching like ATL models, Atlanta models, or look up like ATL ad agent or model agencies, and then go on the people's tagged pages. So like, say for example, there's like a modeling agency like Salt Models. You go on their IG and then click on their tag and find models and DM them like, "Hey, do you want to shoot?" You know what I'm saying? Like just like kind of reaching out to people, and if you get like 100 no's but one yes, you get some good content out of that yes, and that'd be worth it. You know what I mean?
Got you. Got you. Definitely.
But it'll be opened up soon. Like people will be less wary to shoot in the next couple months, I assume. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. Okay. Cool. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, man. I'm always around if you need some help. You know?
Yeah, I really appreciate how much you've helped me so far. Yeah.
No doubt, bro. No
Yeah.
problem. It helps you, and you can like get some value from this.
Definitely. I sure did. I sure did.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right, well, it's good seeing you and good meeting you. Let me know if you need anything. I can like save these presets and send them to you if you want me to, if you want to have them.
Yeah. Yeah. That'll be good.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna save them and email them to the email you just sent to me. Okay.
All right. All right. Thank
All
you.
right. No problem, brother. Good meeting you, man.
Good meeting you too.
All right. Peace
See you.
out.